If you are someone who is prone to a lot of anxiety, or you feel like I don't want to go deep and I don't want to do this, just fucking don't do it. Close the app and then just don't do it enough.
Why should people listen? What is it that we're about to uncover?
I think most people are using AI the wrong way right now. Or I think the real power of AI is actually looking inward at yourself. The only blocks we have are the blocks that are in our mind.
From a top level, what is it that you've done?
Over the past 10 weeks, being able to take all of my ChatGPT conversations, and I've essentially taken all of these things and built it into an AI second brain. And I've built it in a way so there's now 2,500 files, which are all of my thoughts, my frameworks of how I do things. It can write any content exactly like I would write it, talk about my philosophies, so I can actually search into my brain. The only reason AI can't do the things you want to do because it doesn't have all the context. It does no eyes, it can't hear anything, can't see anything. So all it's got is what you give it. And that's the only reason why it can't do the outputs as well.
Why did you do this?
It's like I'm building this second brain thing to assist me, but it's based on how I think already.
What about the security of this? Oh, this guy is literally downloading his mind into AI. What if everything goes wrong? Does that scare the shit out of you? Welcome to Chew the Fat. My name is Frank Reef, and I started this podcast after I sold a business for $180 million with my two brothers. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for Children's Cancer Institute by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. In this series, I'm going to bring different types of founders on for you can share in their journeys and their lessons and insights. I'm also going to bring on guests who are in the middle of scaling their business. I want to make sure the challenges are relative to you and make sure you can take insights that you can use in each and every day in your business. I hope you enjoy. Matt Lakajev, last time we spoke was only like a couple of months ago. You're my first repeat.
Excited.
And I got a text from you, and I was like, Frank, I have to come back on and I have to share. Now, I don't think today is going to be our LinkedIn masterclass what it was last time, but I'm equally as excited. And firstly, I want to start with why should people listen? What is it that we're about to uncover?
So for context, my wife's been in Bulgaria for 2 months, so I've had a lot of time to work, and I'm so pretty much single in a house by myself, got a lot of time, and AI has come up. So I think why we want to listen is I think most people are using AI the wrong way right now, and there's this thought out there that we're still waiting for the technology to get better instead of it's actually already here. We haven't changed our behavior in how we use it in order to get the most out of it. Because I think so much of when everyone thinks about using AI, they think about outputs. They're thinking how do I do more things? How do I get more distribution? Or how do I just let it write this email instead of me taking 60 minutes, it takes 10 minutes. But where I think the real power of AI is actually looking inward at yourself and actually how you can actually reflect on what you're doing in your life, because every founder knows, or just human in general, the only blocks we have are the blocks that are in our mind. Ultimately, that's it. And so, if you can systematically remove these things in your life that have been bothering you, that's why every entrepreneur goes through this hero's journey to get where they are right now. And they go through this personal development process. And I think that is actually the cool thing that we can use right now. So I want to speak heaps of lived examples about myself of what I'm doing, how I'm writing a book, and I'm just documenting the whole thing of exactly how to do it. Because I think we're just thinking about it wrongly, and we just haven't changed our behaviors on how to use it.
So let's take it there is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
From a top level, what is it that you've done?
I think over the past 10 weeks, what I've done now systematically is being able to take all of my ChatGPT conversations, all of my voice transcripts. So when I walk my dog, 45 minutes of me speaking or speaking back and forth to AI. And I've essentially taken all of these things and built it into an AI second brain. And this AI second brain it lives in a tool called Obsidian. And I've built it in a way so there's now 2,500 files in there, which are all of my thoughts and my frameworks of how I do things. And the road of how I got there's been a lot of learnings. But what this AI second brain can do now is it can write any content exactly like I would write it. All of my content is 100% AI. It can talk about my philosophies. I can say, look back in April and then say till June and how have I changed and what are the missing things. So I can actually search into my brain because I've taken every LinkedIn post I've ever written, every internal school community post, I'm taking my whole program, every recording, everything, and I've created it in a way so my brain now has an external scaffolding of all my thoughts, so I don't need to rethink all these things as well. So it just creates a massive amount of leverage, because right now, the only reason AI can't do the things you want it to do because it doesn't have all the context. It doesn't have eyes. So when you're giving it information in there, it does no eyes, it can't hear anything, can't see anything. Like when we look, we have things. So all it's got is what you give it. And that's the only reason why it can't do the outputs as well.
And before we get into the practical how, why did you do this? Because I must admit, when I hear my wife's away for 10 weeks, it's like, my bachelor time, I'm gonna work with AI. I love that.
Yeah. So I'm bringing this out of my book anyway and talking about it. So like, there's a couple of stages of the process. So like 7 years ago, like I was like super lost. Like, so, before that I'd changed jobs 25 times, and then I finally decided, all right, I'm going to do accounting. Like I'm getting into this accounting thing. I was studying full time, working full time. And I was just like not feeling it though, but I was doing the right thing, even though before I'd changed 25 jobs, but I wasn't stressed. So I was trying to do this thing the whole time when I was there. And so, the whole time I was feeling all this tension. I was like, man, it's not going right in my life. But before that, I'd never felt stressed. Even though I dropped out of school, like I have very low neuroticism, meaning like my anxiety levels aren't that high on like a baseline. So I can go through a lot of things. But what we did is we went to a trip. This is random. We went to Coachella in 2018. And when I was there, like we partied 3 days, and I partied like a bit too hard on one of the days, as you do, right? And I was sitting there and Beyonce was about to come on. And I literally was like having a spiral. I was like, I've never felt anxiety in my whole entire life. I was like, I'm fucked. And so like, I literally had to leave like my partner and her brother at the time. I was sitting down at the fountain. I swear to God, I was writing my last words in my phone. I was like, I'm going to die, because I'd never felt that feeling before. And at that time, I've reflected back now, and there's a thing called Keegan's stages of awareness as well. It's in psychology. I kind of, through that traumatic event, I kicked from stage 3 to stage 4 Keegan's. Keegan's stage 3 is when you give a shit about everyone else, and you're like, how do I fit in with a social circle? How do I you're very self-conscious. And stage 4 is kind of like, actually, I'm going to fucking go for shit myself. That's a very basic summation of it. So I went through this process that like in 2018 there, which was like a really traumatic event. And then after that, I went back home, still anxiety, until I eventually had a breakdown. And then I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to follow what I want to do. And so I quit my job, got a job in sales, and that's when I started like living like me. And so that was kind of like stage 4 where I was at. And so I felt like I had control and I was doing things, but we went back to Coachella literally 2 months ago and back in the state, but I felt fine going back and everything. But it's like it kicked some trauma back into me when I was there. Like I didn't take any drugs or anything. I was just drinking and that was it. But like, it's the first time I've ever kind of like logged out of social media in 2 years since building this business, because I was like, oh man, I have to build it, I have to prove myself. I lost 200 grand at the start. I was like, always had this like chip on my shoulder. And then I built it and I had 2 weeks off, and it was like all of a sudden my brain could think. And then what I did is like, we had this kind of first night at Coachella. The next day I got up in the morning, like pretty hungover, a little bit of anxiety and stuff. Literally went walking and I just started speaking to GPT, and I was like, why don't I crave going out and getting smashed anymore? Why don't I crave doing this? And I just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I've like kind of reflected back on it now. I'd had a trauma that came back again, but I was going super deep with GPT unknowingly while I was walking in the sun in fucking Palm Springs. Then I had a coffee and that just set me off as well, as you do, right? I had a Hydrolite to try and balance it out. But and I'm just like going so deep for like 4 hours, and I literally, this like thing clicked in my brain, and I was like, fuck me. Like this, like everything that I was building and what I was doing is all trying to prove this stuff. And I started having all these like realizations, and it's like, it kicked me into it again. And they call it like stage 5 Keegan stages of awareness. And it's like, I was kind of kicking from 4 into to 5 potentially, where that's like, you start seeing everything as a system, and like super weird to think about, right? It's fucked up. But like you start seeing everything as a system, and then I was like, fuck. And then that put me on like another, like, I feel like I changed again through trauma. This thing happens to people when they're like, they feel like they're going to die, but like it got triggered by me using AI. And I've reflected with both my therapists on this as well and talk them through like what happened. And it's crazy because this happens in like near-death experiences when someone's 65, when everyone's like dying around them and they switch. But this got triggered then. And so like it changed how I think in general. And then I started realizing, I was like, man, I was so clouded before. Like I need to get clarity. And so that was what made me kickstart realizing that like everything is just a system. Like literally everything is a system and you can change everything. And that's when I started like, say, using AI, which is crazy because it's synthetic. It's not even real, to actually reflect with myself at the same time. And so that was kind of the antithesis of what started. The reason I started building a second brain is because I was like, okay, I'm really pissed off because I've always taken iPhone notes in my phone. I always have these great ideas on the weekend. Every entrepreneur does it. You get on a fucking Sunday, you go for a run and you have the best ideas. And then you're like, you lose it, you know? And I was like, how do I build something that that can compound on each other, that can be like recursive self-improvement, essentially. That's what I want. And so I was in Bulgaria at the time because I went from Coachella back to Australia, then to Bulgaria with my partner. But Bulgaria in this tiny town, whatever. And I'm just like walking around in the morning. No one walks early in the morning in Bulgaria. And then I was just like thinking through it and I had 2 weeks of just like, I'm just going to build this thing. So I just went and I was like, okay, cool. If it's my personality type, you know everything about me. How do I build something that I'm actually going to use? And like, that's when I started on the journey of building it. So it's like I'm building this second brain thing to assist me, but it's based on how I think already. So it doesn't feel not natural to me. It feels like how I would do things, because most of us, what we do is we grab systems and frameworks and things that other people give us, and then we just try to adapt them in our life, and it doesn't feel correct because inevitably all frameworks are made up and some are useful, right? Pretty much like that's it. And so I was like, how do I just build my own system on my own subconscious so then I can start making these decisions? Because I do so much reflecting on, I've wasted all these things. How do I just not waste anything? So that's kind of like how I started doing it. It was like this thing clicked again and I was like, all right. And it's like I'm getting more clarity. And then ever since then I've realized, man, I was in a sympathetic nervous state, like stressed for 2 years, just like low grade stress for 2 years. But when you're in that state for like 2 years, it's like you can't go deeper and see the meaning behind the meaning as well when you're doing stuff. So that's kind of how it happened. So super fucking random.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And like one last question before we get those practicals is like, what was the outcome you were hoping to achieve compared to what you've noticed has been delivered?
That's pretty much exactly what I expected. Like I was just, how do I create something that compounds on top of each other and how I can use things? I think the biggest thing that's changed, the biggest thing that has realized within me is that even though a lot of things have changed and I've changed a lot of things, and I can talk through specifics, I don't feel any different. It's like I still feel exactly the same, even though I've systematically been able to change a lot of things and do a lot of things. But it's kind of like that we only have a certain level of baseline of how we feel. You can only feel real level of happiness or real level of dopamine or fulfillment. And it doesn't even really matter how big the thing is or how much money you make or whatever it is. It kind of doesn't matter. And so I think one thing that surprised me is like, I just feel exactly the same. Like I feel very clear on whatever I'm doing and I know what to do, but like there's no heightened sense of anything. It's like everything feels kind of the same. I think everyone throughout history, if you read like Marcus Aurelius's journals, right? Like people read that now and they're like, that's just fucking me. Like, cause like humans have literally stayed exactly the same. It's just the environment around us has changed.
So let's talk about like, how did you go about it? So you mentioned there the voice notes. So can you take me through some of those practical steps?
Yeah, I'll give you the exact actions. So I use AI in a few ways. So the very first thing you have to do is, and there's a warning or a caveat here as well. If you are someone who is prone to a lot of anxiety or you have high neuroticism or you feel like I don't want to go deep and I don't want to do this, just fucking don't do it. Like go get a therapist or something like that. Like I'm not a qualified person. This is just me running an experiment on myself. So like do that because like if you're someone who has a high baseline anxiety level and you have a tendency to ruminate on a lot of things because that's what it causes, you can like unearth things that you'll be like, I don't want to fucking see that. Like it's just, and that's why like when you talk from a therapy standpoint, like one of the easiest ways in therapy to remember childhood memories is look at photos. But the reason you don't want to do that is because you can sometimes bring back the trauma and then you ruminate on it. So there's a new therapy practice which is more around just fuck the past and we're just going to deal with the future. And I think it's a better way to go through things because sometimes you don't want to hash it out. So that's just like one caveat where if you at any point do this and you feel uncomfortable, just stop. Just close the app and then just don't do it at night.
because otherwise like you could set yourself off really badly. So I just want to say that up front.
That's good.
Yeah, just because, so a few ways that I do it. So the first thing you need to do is you have to be 100% clear on what you're thinking and saying when you're speaking to AI. So depending on your personality type, you could be an extrovert. So me, when I speak, I think. So I'm forming things as I speak. Introverts tend, not always, but like tend to think first, then speak. And so for introverts, it's sometimes better for them to write as well, because that's their natural way of expression, or type. It depends on how fast they process things. So whether you're a speaker, writer, or typer, you can try all three. The first thing you want to do is just go to a park if you're a speaker, open up Otter, the transcription app, and just say, I'm thinking about, and just talk. And just say exactly what comes in your mind. And even if you have something that comes to your mind and it's like, oh, I just felt this weird emotion. Oh, when I saw that tree over there, it fucking reminded me of this. Oh man, my dog's doing a fucking shit again. Like, it's like actually say everything that you're thinking, because the restriction with AI now, why it can't give you the outputs that you want, is because you're not giving it the correct inputs so it even knows. So it's like you got to let its eyes open so it can actually see everything as well. And so when you do that, that's the first step. So if you do, say, half an hour of talking, then add it into GPT and say, tell me everything about my big 5 personality type, my Enneagram, my Myers-Briggs, my DISC profile, how I think, my thought processes. And what that does is when you go full fidelity and clear with stream of consciousness, it means when you do that, it's like when you do the 16personalities.com quiz, everyone does it and they're like, oh my God, look at my type. And then you get your family to do it and everyone fucking does it. It's the best lead generation machine ever because it's got 850 million leads because everyone fucking does the test. Yeah. People want to know everything about them. This is a way which when you do this, you're like, oh, okay, now I get it. So like it opens up your eyes and then you say, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Okay, I've been thinking about this problem. What do you think about this? And so it gives you like a profile or a bio of yourself that you can feed into it. And that's like a starting point on how to do it, because if you start without that, you won't get the output. You'll read it, you'll be like, nah, it's kind of shit. It's like because you haven't given it the input. So that's like the base layer. Then on top of that, the ways that you do it, one is I'll go for a walk in the morning with my dog. I'll do a 20-minute or a 45-minute voice dump of just what I'm thinking about.
And you're doing this like every day at the moment?
Every day. Hours every day. Yeah, hours, like every day. Like, and so I'll walk in the park, 45 minutes, and I'll go back home, put it in GPT. Then that's like one way where it's just one big long voice dump. Another way is I'll walk along, I'll use speech to text, I'll speak, and then I'll read it. I'll speak, and then I'll read it. And so that's another way to do it. The speaking and reading works really well at your computer because when you're sitting at your computer, you can read a lot of stuff. And then if you have, say, Otter open, which is speech to text, it's just better than the GPT speech to text. It kind of sucks because it loses it sometimes. It's really annoying. Then you're just reading something for half an hour and you're just auditing your thoughts about it for half an hour. And then you just add that in and then you add another question. So that's another way to do it.
And are you structuring these as like, because from what I've heard so far, it's a lot of just like random thoughts, but I'm kind of imagining that the map of the mind, there's also like almost like gaps or things like how I think about business execution or how I think about writing content.
I'll give you an exact run through as well. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. And then they're like kind of the mechanisms. Then another one that works really well, if you're doing a zone 2 on a bike, really good. You're like, so if you speak to GPT and it speaks back to you, it's a different way for you to ingest the information, because if you listen or if you read, it's different, or if you're just speaking. So that's kind of like the first step on how to go through it. Now, if I'm going through like a problem or if I want to sort something out, like the reason why the second brain matters to me is I don't want to have to rethink or re-go over things. And when I speak to it now and give it context about a problem, I want it to be like, okay, these are all the other things that you've already thought through. Here's how it connects. Because your mind's kind of like this interlinking thing. It's like you think about one thing, you think about another, and you can link things together. And so if I'm thinking about like a problem, the thing that I'm going to solve is always the thing that naturally comes up. It's never forced. It has to be something that I'm just genuinely curious about. And so the other day, I made a piece of content, and I was thinking about like, fuck, humans are so dumb. I was like, we look at like, we're selling something from Worse, and Worse is, let's say a thing of salmon, right? And you're like, okay, then I open the salmon box and there's this plastic, right? They paid 3 cents for the plastic. But like, that's only on the P&L. What's the actual damage over time for that? And it's like, we don't know. We have no fucking idea. It's like 500 years. It goes in the ground. What's the microplastic damage? When I'm washing it out, how much does the water cost? So we're not actually factoring in this long term. And then I was like, are we actually like really dumb? Like, didn't another civilization actually have it correct? Like, how bad are we not doing long-term thinking? And then I started producing this piece of content on how Indigenous Australians were actually the smartest because they, or Native Americans thought 7 generations ahead. That's how they thought about everything. Oh, is this going to affect 7 generations positively? Sure. Indigenous Australians lived for 60,000 years and they built systems to just align with everything around just consistent long term. But I was just thinking through this while I'm like doing anything. And then I'm like, okay, how do I link this to my models? How do I do this? So it's a way that you can kind of grab these disparate thoughts and like put them together. But then when you're having this like random thought that pops up, you can add it in and then it kind of pulls in all your other information.
Wow. Okay. So here are a couple of thoughts are running through my mind. One is actually, as I put myself in the listener's shoes, they go like, "Holy shit, that sounds crazy," but also I don't got 10 weeks. So what's like the starting position for someone who like, I want to get some of that juice, let's call that like 50-60% of it, but I want to do it in way less time because that's how we all think.
Yeah, definitely.
How could someone do that in their world today without Obsidian, without all of these different
definitely
add-ons?
I think the first thing to realize that, I think what I've reflected on this a lot is like there's speed, but then there's also time for integration. And so what I've worked out, because I've been tracking myself, like my say stress levels and my sleep, and then I've been really trying to track when am I in a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous state. And what I've found that you get the best juice from making change when you're in a full parasympathetic nervous state. It's why so many people crave going to saunas and exercising and doing this. It's because their body's like screaming at them, stop. Like they're like, you've actually, like one of the best things for an entrepreneur to do is just stop, just do nothing. But the reason we don't do it is because we got to here because we hustled, we have high agency. And so and because of that, when we stop, we don't feel safe. We literally are like, I don't feel safe. And so one of the things to do is like, if you're going to explore this, you have to do it at a time where you feel safe and you've stopped. Otherwise, if you're running low grade stress the whole time, what I've noticed like for myself is like when I run low grade stress, I just have multiple loops and things flying at me and thoughts from all directions. And you don't a lot of the time notice it. You just kind of think that's you. But when I'm in low grade stress, I'm literally thinking like a thought will come up where I didn't text that person back. And I'll be like, oh, fuck, I didn't text him back. But it actually doesn't fucking matter. And so that's how I know when I'm in that state. So you want to get into a parasympathetic state if you can. And you can look up ways on how to do that, box breathing, long walks, all that kind of stuff. But then when you're reflecting on something, let's say you're just going to walk in the park, right? I'd probably do the half an hour thing first. But let's say you're just going to go for a walk in the park. I just open up GPT and I just click the mic button and then just start speaking of whatever you're thinking about around a problem that you want to solve. It's just anything. And so for me, a problem I had was like overeating. So I'd be like, all right, like why am I overeating? Like why, I'm into fitness, like I'm training for CrossFit and Hyrox and all these things, but I've always had a problem of overeating. Like, why is that? Why don't I tie it into it? And then like, I just keep having these and asking these question after question after question and just try to remove as much ego from it as possible. Because anytime ego gets in the way, it blocks you from seeing as well, which is really hard. So just trying to remove ego. Then I was like, why? And I have conversations over 1 week. It comes up again. And then I kind of realized in the end, it was like, okay, I was in low grade stress all the time. So that caused me to want to do bad habits. Also, when I was a kid, I used to play a lot of sport and I'd go to school and I actually realized the amount of calories I had in my lunch. I had an apple, a banana, one sandwich with Devon on it and a packet of chips. But I was like, how old was I? And I was sprinting around. Then I go to soccer training. So I'd get home every night and I'd smash fucking 7 burritos and I'd be so full that my stomach hurt every night. And same with my siblings. We've talked about this. And I was like, man, like I literally eat to feel safe. Like I eat to feel safe. And I was like, and it wasn't like all of a sudden there was this serendipitous moment. When I recognized it, next time I was like, well, I'm not going to overeat now. And so like, we've got all these loops and things that we're running in our mind. So like when the food comes in front of you, I'd always be like, do I want seconds? Oh, I'm not going to have dessert, but then I would have dessert. So I wouldn't trust myself kind of thing. But now I'm just like, I'm just not going to have it. Because I've kind of like come to that conclusion myself that that's my identity. When, James Clear wrote in Atomic Habits, he talks about how like initially it starts with the thoughts, then it's like creating your environment in a way. Then you've like got to build the habit, which changes behavior, which changes identity in the end, right? I think you can kind of like skip past that stuff if you have a pain that's latent, been sitting here for a long time, and a person that you want to become here, that if you really zoom in and look at it, you can kind of just like skip forward as well. And so that's one thing that I was able to like get rid of around like so many other things. And then it doesn't take up my brain space. Like it's like, I don't ever think like that. So now I used to like stress, like the other week, my dad came into mine and we went out to dinner. And I used to really stress going to dinner on a Friday night because I didn't want to eat bad food because I'd train on the weekend and stuff. So I'd feel guilty if I didn't do that. But I remember I like went there and we ate steak or whatever, and there was heaps of chips there, whatever, and I just didn't eat it. And then Dad was like, he wanted to have a tequila, and I was like, I'll just have one and I just won't feel guilty. And because I used to always feel guilty around that. And then afterwards he's like, I want to get ice cream or dessert. And I was like, I won't have anything. And I was just like, then I reflect back, I'm like, fuck, like 2 months ago I'd have been like, I would have eaten all this stuff and then I would have been like running the next day to like punish myself for some reason. So it's like going through these reflections, like, but the reason I think that AI can do it so well is like, there's never been a point in time where you could have a thought inside your mind about something that's stressing you. And then you just speak to this thing that it gives you feedback speed. Because when you have a thought, you got 20 to 30 seconds, otherwise it's got fucking gone. And 20 to 30 seconds, it has that level of emotional intensity as well, because once the emotion drops, you lose it. So it gives you fast feedback speed. And then when you speak fluently, you speak out like, oh, this problem, blah, 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 it gives you back essentially your subconscious, what your subconscious is thinking. And then you read it and you're like, oh yeah, because you've actually already thought it like for 6 years or whatever. And then it gives you this, it's so clear back to you that then you go deeper as well. And that's recursion depth as well. Then you ask it again and again and again. And then it's like you're thinking through it. So you're practicing like therapy, journaling, all these things all in one, but in kind of a synthetic way. And then eventually you get to the point you realize you're like, oh yeah, like what the hell? And then that's when like identity change happens. It's like you just want to be like, well, I'm just not the person that does that. And then you kind of come to the conclusion yourself. So I think that's probably that's probably like the biggest thing that I've taken away from it. I think entrepreneurs believe that we can change everything, but a lot of the times it's the stuff in your head that you got to change. And so like every entrepreneur goes through like the personal development like process as well. Like you just naturally evolve, and your friends see it as well. They're like, you're not a fucking same person, because you're not. Like you get forced into it. But I think when you can kind of systematically go in and like really observe things really closely, now I just don't even think about that. So we've got a certain amount of RAM that's in our brain. We've got only a certain amount of working memory. So like, I don't want these thoughts coming in around these things. So it's like, all right, I'm just going to dive deep into it to really like understand it, to then be like, okay, that's not a thing anymore.
Fucking hell. Yeah. I love it. So let me give as I hear those things and then I think about the person listening, I want to share, I guess, a practical way that someone can implement that in the lowest fidelity way possible. Number one, what I hear, and I'm going to play it to you and you can tell me right or wrong, I reckon what's a really good spot here would be like ChatGPT in a project. Yeah. And so you use the project function to kind of be like, this is let's call that the version of your brain before they move over to the other tools. Yeah. And I've done this with like tone of voice. Yeah. So I've done, I've asked ChatGPT just directly the question, like, what is my tone of voice? Yeah. Spat me out a 4 or 5 page report, and it's given me like, these are the different like archetypes of characters you're in, and they're okay. But I was like, okay, how do I get better with it? I just asked the question and it gave me the suggestion, do voice notes. Yeah. And so through that series of doing it, now the juxtaposition between you and I is it sounds like you spent 100, 200, 300 hours on this. I probably spent 4 or 5. Yeah. But I have something specifically, let's say for content, that's like 50, 60% good, which is like triple as good as what it would be straight out of, when you just ask, write me the content. Yeah, definitely. So I think that's a really good practical way to do it. And then also like you can start to get it to ask you questions as well, where in the voice mode where I said like, okay, I asked it, okay, if we were to build a map of the way I think about business, what would be the questions? And so I use my car time as it to ask me questions like, okay, when you're doing this kind of problem, how would you solve it? To kind of unpack that. Yeah. How does that sit in terms of like a simple way for people to execute before building an entire brain?
I think you don't need to build an entire brain. I think the first thing to do is the 30-minute exercise. Yeah. You could even do it 10 minutes if you want. You just want to get like the full thing, because if you ask it, hey, give me everything about personality, and then a trick that you say to AI, can you give it to me in 4 parts with the maximum amount of words? Because then it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4. Because every response GPT or any AI gives you, they're trying to conserve fucking energy, right? They're trying to do that. So because AI takes a lot of energy, that's why now is the best time to be using it, because it's like Facebook ads in 2010.
Yeah.
It's like the juice is going to get more expensive.
Yeah.
I'm pumping Claude Pro.
You reckon it's going to get more
Pro.
expensive?
It's hard to tell around like, because if there's certain chips that if they bring out and they use them with the chips with light and stuff like that, how it's going to be. But I think like there's always a disproportionate advantage in the beginning when you actually do something. And I think get it now, because like the more you can change inevitably human behavior is the thing that lags behind. It's not like the internet came out in 2000. It's our behaviors changed over time. So I think, but we'll go back to how you can use it. I would ask it like 30 minutes of voice dumping, give everything about your personality, build it into as many pages as you possibly can for that. Use that as a project. Awesome. So if you open up a project in GPT, then you add that in and you say, this is everything about me. It can reread that every single time. So that would be a basic way to do it. But around a problem to solve, like the thing is, it depends on your personality type, the way that you think about things. That's the difference. And so for me, the way I would build a second brain or attack a problem is very different to other people. You've got to follow the way that your kind of peak curiosity. So let's say you go, like the easiest ways to solve a problem is go for a walk in the morning. Because like I'm now implementing like no input morning. So like in the morning, I have no inputs. I don't read any text messages. I read there's zero. There's just my thoughts. And if I want to open up AI, that's the only thing.
And how do you define an input, and what's the amount of time you're doing this for?
As long as I possibly can. Sometimes stuff comes up and it's like I can't avoid it. But an input is anything that's like real that can change my thoughts. Even a text message. I don't even want to read text messages. So text message, I don't even open any apps on my phone. It's like nothing. The only thing I want is like my own thoughts, me speaking, and then using AI as a mirror to my own thoughts. That's the only thing I want. And I'll spend as long as I possibly can to do that.
Wow.
Because otherwise, any small input you get, any text, like anything, and obviously I'm not a parent, so if parents can't do this, right, it's like totally different, right? But like any small input you get changes how you're going to think about things. So if you can, like wake up in the morning, you're clear and you're fresh, go for a walk, you've got that project open, you've already added your pages of your stuff, and then just speak about, okay, what's something that's on your mind that's a problem, and just speak through it. Like just open up, pick something, and just let yourself roam free. We've been taught within school and work and stuff that we have to like systematically break down these problems and go through them. AI doesn't need that. It'll have so much context when you give it everything. It's better to look at it from the lens of, psychology, physiology, business, all of these lenses all at once, because then it gives you a really good summation of the issue, because we're usually thinking from like a lead generation and business lens. But most of the time, people's lead generation problems just stem from them being scared of rejection and them not having self-trust in themselves to execute. So a lot of it, it's all interconnected. And so you want to have all these interconnected parts when you're speaking about it. So I just walk and you open up GPT, you hit the microphone, you just speak. And then you hit play, go, you just read it while you're walking. All right, cool. And then speak again, speak, hit it, record it, and just let your curiosity drive you down and down and down. It depends on how high someone's openness will be.
Yeah.
So if you look on Big Five, like personality profiles, if someone has I have like extreme crazy openness levels, which means that I'll just keep going. So like some people will stop after 3 questions. So you want to just see where you get taken, because if you don't do it the way that you want to do it, if you can't do it forever, you won't do it for a day. Like that's kind of my kind of rule of how I think through things as well, because otherwise it will be inconsistent. So whatever you talk through, you might talk about business, or you might be like, fuck business, I want to talk about relationships, or I want to talk about my own brain. It's like whatever your interest is, it allows you to explore it from the lens of your personality, when usually we're being taught from this is the way. It's like now you can kind of teach yourself from the way that you best easily learn. And so that's, I'd say, the easiest step to do, because whenever someone does this, or I've told someone to do it, they're like, what the fuck? They're like, man, I got the craziest good responses. This was so personalized to me, because it's just reflecting your subconscious back to you with all of the other context as well. And so that way you can kind of systematically work through each kind of working through something, or just talk about something. So I'll go for a walk and I'll be like, I had like a call with one of my clients last night. I can see he's really down, like it kind of really bothered me. It was really weird that it bothered me, because it was like, 8:30 at night and I didn't want to, and I just keep like just talking about all these things. And then it comes back with these responses or things that you're like, oh yeah. And then you explore that and you just keep exploring that. Like that's how I would say is a starting base point as well. Cause then you'll just uncover things that you'll have realizations. You'll be like, oh yeah, but it's not new. You've already thought about it. You're just surfacing it back again, and now you're seeing the importance of it.
Love it. Okay, so before we wrap the brain in a bow, I have to ask one question.
Yeah.
What about the security of this, right?
Yeah.
So I imagine some people listening going like, oh, this guy is literally downloading his mind into AI.
Yeah.
What if everything goes wrong? Does that scare the shit out of you or what?
I thought about that a lot, to be honest. No, because we're already downloading our minds anyway. Like Instagram, Facebook, and everyone, they already know every fucking thing about you. Like it's kind of like irrelevant. It's just, I would rather have my mind on my local LLM on my desktop and me know about me. It's like, of course someone could take that, but the hard thing is like when they bring out Meta glasses, right? They've already got a phone. We don't know if they're fucking listening on the phone. Like you don't know, right? Like when they've got like Meta glasses, it can see everything. And like Facebook, right? Every single social media application, right? You go to the terms and conditions and it says in the thing, we can change our terms and conditions whenever we want. Like literally it says that. And so all your private messages, all your WhatsApps, all everything, sure they're encrypted, sure this, but like really eventually it's all going to be found out and it's going to be found. And it's like, that's kind of what I think through. I think what I'm doing now is like, I have this thought to myself. I'm like, say if I'm kind of unsure or something like that, I'll say, am I somewhere now where am I in a place now where I'd prefer to be than I was before? If so, then that's okay kind of thing. And so I think there are a lot of those things that come into it as well, but I think eventually it's all going to know everything anyway. It's like, and so I think I'm just doing things a little bit faster than what other people are. But I think eventually Elon Musk is making Neuralink. Like that, I think honestly, if I was like every single entrepreneur I have shown this to, they're just like, how do I fucking build this? They're just like, they see it and then like, I honestly think we've just thrown security out the fucking window anyway. It's really gone. It's like, it doesn't even exist. It's like every social media can see everything. Like you can make so many understandings about someone's personality. Like I think for me, the danger is not having control over your own mind.
Yeah.
Like I think the biggest problem that's going to happen with AI, I don't think about nukes or anything like that. I think it's going to be an erosion of identity. I think everything's going to change around other people. They're not going to trust themselves. They're not even going to know what to fucking trust because everything's broken up. And then they're essentially just going to disassociate and be like, I don't even know what to fucking do anymore. And then they'll just go down the hole of like this perfect personalized content of just like AI girlfriends, movies and all this shit because they just can't trust themselves. And you can already kind of see it happening with every piece of social media anyway. So I'm like, okay, well, I'd rather know myself first because these social media companies know me better than what I know. Even Target in 2015 knew when people were pregnant before they were pregnant.
No way.
Yeah, I think it was 2010 or 2015. I can't remember exact year. I was reading in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books, I think, and I'm like, what the fuck? So life insurance companies already know when you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, because like if they're going to pay out so much money, it's like, so I would rather have my own introspection on me to understand me because these companies already understand you. It's like, and I just don't think maybe they don't understand the gravity or the weight behind it as well. So that's kind of my thought process around like, for me, I'm like, I could share anything and I feel fine as well. So I'm not too exposed, but I think everyone already knows everything anyway. It's like if anyone's, even just the fact that we're posting on social media right now, if someone just fucking pulls all the transcripts, they can pretty much get, of course, you're putting on a mask, you're not saying everything, but they can make assumptions and, and they can have enough data and enough stuff to know things about you anyway.
It's an interesting topic. And the reason I ask it is because it's often what people will ask me. I've got a few ways to think about it. One is like, those companies don't really care about data from an individual perspective. It's not that valuable to be like, I have Frank's identity. It's more around, it's the collection of all of those people's data that then makes it powerful. And the reality is like $1 trillion companies, they don't care about you, the individual. They care about how they can manipulate an entire market. Second thing is, to your point there, which is really interesting, you're kind of controlling it. So
Yeah.
so instead of just like it's happening without you knowing and it's happening regardless, you're controlling the outcome, and then you're at least getting to interface with it rather than it's happening somewhere else and it's a black box to you and it's just known. So it's quite interesting. There's something you touched on there, and it's something I've been thinking about a lot, which is like, what is the next iPhone moment? And you touched on around Meta glasses. I'm curious, just from a pure curiosity standpoint, like, what do you think that might look like in terms of that next iPhone moment? And when I talk about the iPhone moment, I mean the moment where all of a sudden everybody has a phone and that's the form factor of choice. Do you think it's glasses? Like, what are your views on that?
I think it's just going to be behavior. I think it's just going to be how people behave with the tools. The technology is already there. It's like now, like after building this second brain thing, I've got like 80,000 vectored files where I can literally say, hey, what are the things that from all my things have I left unsaid? Or what are the things that I'm not attacking, or the problems that I'm not doing that I can't even see? And it can unearth these things. I'm like, yeah, that's fucking correct. Like, I think that it's just that we're taking the tools and the technology as is, but we're not trying to make it better because we think this is the best way to do it. But ultimately, like, I think once people's behavior changes, it's just, when GPT came out, everyone was like, oh, this is fucking crazy. But like now it's like you can see like more of your conversations that you're having as well. Like people are just like, oh man, I did this thing the other day and like it was crazy. But I think once it kind of becomes mainstream around how to use it, I think that's going to be the moment. But I don't know if there's going to be any moment. I think I've reflected on this a lot. I think the moment will be for a lot of people when they realize, oh fuck, the world's changed.
The world's what?
The world's changed. I think that will be the moment, probably in like, honestly, there's no way to fucking tell. But like I'd say 2026, 2027, because even now a lot of people just live in denial. Like even just the fact of you admitting AI is like a million times smarter than me. Most people, that's like, they can't do that. Like I went to my mum's house the other night. Her friend hadn't even heard of ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And so like I think for the moment won't be a good moment. I think it'll be when people start laying people off at companies. Like if AI stood where it is right now, right? And people just changed their behavior over 5 years, we'd have heaps of layoffs. People just haven't realized the actual potential of what you can do. Like we're bringing out a product now, which is called Growth Mode. And it's literally in 60 minutes, you can have every funnel, every landing page, your whole fucking CRM, all of your stages of everything perfectly branded and done in 60 minutes on a call. That's just like the whole website industry. Just like, and of course there's custom websites and all this, but like 80% that's just gone. And like we've just done that because we've deep dived on a topic with a small team and stuff. But then I just think, okay, imagine what is going to happen when there's like millions of really smart people going super deep on this thing. And I think a lot of what's holding people back is just kind of what's in their own mind of what they even think is possible. That's the thing. It's like we've got this tool with infinite possibility, but like we don't really know how to use it and we haven't really changed our behavior. So like I'm pretty crazy, and so I don't think many people would do kind of what I've done as well. Like I had a guy who he was in cybernetics 30 years ago. He's been the president of multiple things. He was named one of top influential people in the year 2000. He saw one of my LinkedIn posts and he ended up writing a book on what I did, and he reached out and cited me in this scientific paper and shit. I'll show you after. And he's like actually legit. You look him up and he's like, this is fucking crazy. So I think like stuff that I do is like crazy, but I think I'm just a bit behind, like a bit further in front in years around what I'm doing. But I think the moment will be, probably will be like when there's a deep fake that's really bad and it goes around. I think that'll be the moment where everyone's like, fuck. Like I think that something like that will happen where this thing changes, like COVID. That was a big changing point where everyone was like, oh, you've actually like got to leave the office. Like I've actually got to go home. That was like when people just started like, this is fucking crazy. But I think it will just be for an individual, it will be when their behavior changes and when they speak full stream of consciousness to AI and they actually get feedback back that really matters. Like if they get that back, then you're like, oh my God. And then if your behavior changes where you start using it 3, 4, 5 like hours a day, it's like, then you'll just be like, so I've already had that moment like 2 months ago where I'm like, this is fucked. Nothing's going back to normal. Like I've had that. So I think on an individual basis, it will be different. But then from a global basis, it'll be when some big event thing happens where like, or it might be like some company lays off X amount of people and it'll just be like this thing that happens where people are like, yeah, that's like, it's changed. I don't think there'll be like a device or a thing or something like that that will actually come out or change it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've been thinking about a little bit lately is, and I feel like right now is the golden age. And so you touched on it before, which was like when Meta first launched advertising, and people talk about the golden era of like spending a cent on a Google search or a couple of cents on advertising. Your cost of customer acquisition was so low, and now it's like ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're seeing right now with one, AI, and two, business in general.
Yeah.
So I showed you the little children's book we made. You can do that. We did it with a series of prompts.
Yeah.
And it's like people can literally build businesses with the tools available today.
Actually.
But you know what's really interesting is like, I wonder how long until this closes, because one of the things is like the recent moment of VO3, the video generator from Google.
Yeah, it was huge.
And then if you're on TikTok or Instagram, people have been bringing out these like Yeti viral videos, which is like a Yeti in the bush. And it's like, haha, funny. But you're like, oh, that's got millions of views. And then now I've been recently seeing on YouTube, people are building AI agents to build out content. And so if you kind of look at it, you're like, the door is closing. There's like this finite number of time now that we have before it becomes at scale, and there's 10,000x the amount of content.
Yeah.
And there's not necessarily a question there, but I think it's more just like to stress people to realize like they have the tools available now, and if you utilize it, you get the benefit and you get the power. If you don't, at some stage soon, there's going to be there's almost like too much noise, and then how do you cut through once that door closes?
Yeah, I think there's a few things to unpack there, but I think that the thing that's going to matter more than anything is like obviously getting in early in business, making money and stuff, like setting yourself up makes sense. Because like do you remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Yeah, so it's like stage 1, you're worried about food, water, and shelter. If you don't have those things, you can't think about fucking global warming. This is why when everyone's like, oh, this country is not doing these global things, I'm like, yeah, this is because they're trying to fucking eat. Like no one it's dumb. Like, and then you've got stage 2, which is like financial security and security. A lot of people are stuck in the financial security bucket. Like 90% of, say, Americans live week to week. And so I think from a standpoint of like moving up to that point where you can have more bandwidth to see makes a lot of sense in doing that. But I actually think that the meta hack for AI is going to be how you can integrate it with yourself to change yourself. I actually think the biggest problem is going to be like an erosion of trust. I think that's going to be the biggest issue that happens, because just within business, within anything. And I think ultimately you've got to learn to be able to trust yourself. And so I think working on yourself, it sounds really cliche, and I've never been into like woo-woo shit before. Like it's not even that. Like I've never been into that before, but I'm like, no, actually this is like getting you the best competitive advantage, because what happens when all the work that you've done on building something, next day an app comes out, fucking up in smoke.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that? How do you comprehend that? And I think the people who will win are the ones that just adopt to change, and they realize that change is the status, is the thing. Things will just change. And so I think there is a window right now, say from the content lens, I think content's hard to tell. I think what's going to happen with content over a few years, the hard thing is like, I wouldn't even call myself an expert at anything, but 80% of experts' advice past 5 years are wrong. So all the things anyone fucking predicts anyway is always wrong. But I think if I was to like speculate, I would say there's kind of going to be a few different types of people in the next few years. People are just going to get off social media altogether. They're just not going to consume content. They just at all. They will just flat out fucking, my brother's deleted Facebook. Like my dad deleted it a while ago. They just get off. Because they're like, nah, I'm off. I'm see you later. I think there'll be people who will do lean into it and they'll get consumed by the content. Like I can remember my like World of Warcraft days when I was 16. Like imagine if I could live in this VR World of Warcraft, you would just live there forever. It's like you wouldn't be able to do it. And then so I think there's people just going to abdicate and they're going to be like, fuck off, and they're going to build Amish communities. I think people are going to just get so immersed in it. And I think other people are just going to have to just embrace it and be like, I'm just going to fucking change with it. Because like that's the only thing that you can do. When it comes to like opportunities now, honestly, like the best opportunity is just to sell to old rich people. It's just, that's how you do it. Like they've got so much money and everything's changing around them and they're so fucking scared and they just don't want to be left behind. And they've built their business on all these things, that their skill sets that they built, which maybe don't matter as much anymore. And they have so much money. I think if you're a young person and you want to do it, just walk into a freaking any business because they're terrified. Like people don't say it because like, you don't want to say it, but like they're actually terrified and they're scared. And so if you're selling AI anything now, just don't try to do it through content. Just talk to the person. Just literally go into their business. Promise you'll get the business, because the person will be like, oh my God, this is a real person. This is not some weird online content. Because old business owners don't really buy from content. They just don't. They do it through talking with individuals. And so if you want to make money right now, I'd be like, okay, who are the old people with all the money? And what's an industry where I can build something that's like really fucking easy, but to them it would save them or make them so much money? That's what I would do if I was going to think from a money standpoint. Because like ultimately, whatever you want to sell, if you help people make or save money, that's when they pay the most money for it, because they can quantify it in their head. It's like even the best therapist in the world might only be $500 an hour. Like my therapist is like $400 an hour, and she's like one of the best in the world to cater for me. And I'm like, I would pay so much more money, but okay. Because like the quantifiable results don't add up. So if you want to make a lot of money now, you just got to sell something to someone who like has a lot of money, preferably a small business. Because if you're first time going into it, if you sell to like, you've probably sold to enterprises before. It's a shit fight. Like it's terrible. And if you don't have legal, this fucking all these things, this insurance, it fucking pops out of nowhere. So I would be like small business owners, people who your parents' friends know, just talk to them. They'll buy shit off you. Like, you know, and be the young person that goes in there and be like, I'll implement this AI thing to you. Even if you show them how to use ChatGPT, that there's a guy who I know who's built a whole business where he just goes to old businesses and he's like, here's how to use GPT. Here's how to talk to it. Here's how to do this, because the competitive advantage you get just from knowing to use the tool. So I think a lot of people, like, especially young people, they overthink like what it is. The way to, like, in copywriting and in marketing, right? In copywriting, if you read all the old style copywriting books, like the Boron letters and all them, they always say, when everyone zigs, you zag. So when everyone goes, you know, content, which I think is good, but like when everyone's going content, massive promise, I'll get you all this money, you zag. I'll come and see you in person. I'll get you this small result. Here it is. Everyone else is crazy. I know what's going on with them. That's actually how you win. And so I think most people who are like, who I know making heaps of money now, is like, they just be human. It's like people are craving connection. It's like, it's crazy. And it's like, it'll become exacerbated even more because like, I don't look at Instagram threads much. I don't have TikTok, but I opened it like on Saturday night and I haven't watched it for 6 weeks. I was literally going to have like a meltdown because I couldn't believe how much it's changed and how much better it is.
Oh, interesting.
I was just like, fuck. Like I was like, how good is the content now? I was like, oh my God, it's been 6 weeks. I'm just like, this is fucked. So I think the content, I think when you have a unique angle and a take and you also have authority right now, I think your content matters a lot. So if you already have like, and there are avenues and stuff you can explore, but if you want to just go for like money, I would just be like, I'm just going to go talk to the old rich dude, like who already has this small business, who's just terrified his business is going to go under. And he's probably got like 20 property portfolios and he's probably got 10 million bucks in his super. He would just like fucking pay whatever, charge him anything.
There's actually, I'm going to butcher the stat. It's something dramatic, like 60% of the wealth is going to be transferred over the next 5 to 10 years because there's big, essentially all the boomers are retiring. So what your point there is very, very poignant, and like, and there's a lot of investment firms who are now looking to gobble up some of those businesses at like a boring businesses, 1-time ratio. But yeah, like things like an AI agency to go sell ChatGPT is like, there's kids. I know a guy, 20 years old, started a business. I think it's 6 or 8 months ago. 3 million recurring revenue, and he's doing AI agent automation for boring businesses.
You can probably even just set up fucking Zapier and just say it's AI. They wouldn't even know. Like it's just so many. Like the hard thing is like we've just say the Australian economy. We've just had this fucking bull run just forever. Just because like we've just had really good immigration. And like we've had a lot of outside investment and our dollar's strong and just all these perfect factors that exports are really good and stuff like that. All these things happen with a desirable place to live, great culture, all this kind of stuff. So I think when I look at like a lot of Australian businesses, I'm like, a lot of them kind of suck. Like if you went to the US, you would just get flogged. It's why a lot of Australian businesses, when they try to go to the US, they just get flogged. It's just because like the competition here actually isn't that hard. But what I'm saying there, what I mean by that is like when you go into the businesses, you'll be able to find these like holes. Like before this business, I used to sell phone systems. So we used to do phone auditing, like telephone bill auditing. And I won't name the businesses because I can't remember we signed an NDA, but like I would go to the biggest charities in the whole of Australia or the councils. One council, right, was overpaying. They overpaid $500,000 on their telephone bill over 2 years. $500,000. Like, and I was just like, what the fuck? And like, we were like, hey, we can help you get this money back. And like someone left and like, oh, we can't deal with it for 3 months. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, it's like, so there's so many of these businesses which just have all this money and they're just there because when you're just there for 30 years, you just have trust in the market. You're just there. It becomes an easy choice. You drive past Macca's it's kind of shit, but I'm going to get it. It's like, it's kind of shit. I'm going to feel a bit shit afterwards as well, but I'll just get it. So like when something just exists, it has innate trust that's been built because people think, how could it have existed if it's been there for this long? So I think these businesses, because like the economies of scale with that business, they're kind of like, if they went in a competitive market, they'd be dead.
Yeah.
But they've kind of got like so many inefficiencies that if you go inside, you can be like, I just fix this. So when we used to do the phone bill stuff, we're like, here's how to save 30 grand a month. Like one of the biggest charities in Australia, we're like 30 grand a month like that. And they were like, oh my God, just because they're inefficiently run. Like, so there's all these like businesses that like, if someone goes in there and figures that, that's what I think Cody Sanchez that's all she talks about is just like, just buy a boring business. But I think if you're going to make money now, there's so many angles you can do it. But I think you want to go the non-sexy way where other people are going, because that's always the way that works. Like everyone knows the plumber who left school and who owns this big plumbing. Like I got a friend of mine who he grew up with and he dropped out of school, but now he owns an electrician business with like 50 staff. It's like, because he just like got into the non-sexy business. And so I think you want to combine AI with the non-sexy. Like that's the route that I would go down, because the gap of knowledge between that business owner and you is so far. And like, but this is why I hate when people sell to startups. I just can't deal with it, because the startup is like, especially a tech startup, they're super savvy. They'd rather spend their time than money. They're like workhorses, and like they see your thing and they'll kind of just like take it. And so like the gap that exists is only this small. So it's like you don't have as much of a gap. It's better to have a really large gap. And you probably look at this business owner over here and you're like, how do you not know how to use ChatGPT? But it's actually that difficult for them to start using it. So it's just like you're just showing them. It's like when you give someone ChatGPT and you're like, here's how to use it, and show them how to use it. It's like they're discovering fire.
It's like literal magic.
They're like, I can't even deal with like how good this is, especially how good it is now. So even just introducing them to that thing, that's how I'd think about the money thing. If I was looking at this time zone, because I think a lot of those businesses are just going to be dead soon, which is really sad to think about. And that's like really worrying, but like they just will be, because people will just bring out, like, you probably see it a lot with startups and stuff. You've probably seen so many startups and you see their stuff and you're like, man, this tech is like 10 times better than that big company. They're going to eat it. Like literally, it's just time hasn't passed. Enough time hasn't passed for it to actually happen. It's because this big company's been there and they've got this board and these things. So there's this level of respect and trust that's innately built in the market. Like if you go with a younger person with a small business, there's essentially risk. But eventually the people are going to realize, actually, there's not that much risk. And then they'll actually get taken over. It's kind of crazy.
So as we kind of close up, one of the things for all the punters staying, they've stayed along, they've listened to us and they're going, fucking oath, let's go. How do I take some practical steps? Now we've talked about the practical steps from the brain. The sense I get is you've tried many things.
Yes.
What are the things from an AI standpoint that have made the most material impact above and beyond the brain? So your day-to-day tools that you're using.
It's honestly just the thing that matters is giving as much input as possible. So like, and this is like me showing that business owner how to use GPT. It feels similar-ish thing, but like when I'm at my desk and I'm working and I'm reading something, I have Otter open and I'm verbally speaking out loud. Like, and just full like stream of consciousness, whatever I'm saying. That's like the biggest block, because I've used my AI second brain to analyze my chats before and my chats after. And like before, I wasn't getting the output that I wanted because I wasn't clear with exactly my thoughts. And so until you do that, that's like the biggest competitive advantage that you can have, I think, right now as well, is just, it's weird because it's like authenticity. It's like the only long-term thing you can do. But it's like when you just do that and then you build a file or something like that with your summarization of the notes. I can put some notes down underneath, so if people want to click it as well, they can do that. But like, then you want to create a file, let's say you have a discussion with the GPT, and I can kind of walk through, show how I do it. I'll be like, okay, cool. What are the 3 models out of this conversation, ways that I think about things that we could draw out those models, and I can save them and I can add them to the project next time so it can read it. And so it can start from another starting spot. So then you can keep building. So you don't need a whole second brain or any of this stuff done. You just want to be able to pull out, like, because most of the insights that we have, we just lose them. We just lose them. We have a conversation, whatever, Apple Notes is just, nothing goes anywhere. But you want to have a conversation and then be like, okay, what are like the key things that I got out of this conversation? And can you build a model and a structure for it so I can export it out? And then it will go 1, 2, 3. and then you'll just take the 3 things and just save it somewhere.
Got it.
And then next time, upload the 3 models, upload the thing about your personality. Cool, based off where we left off, this is how I think about things. Continue. And then if people start doing that, they'll figure out a way to build some external second brain. All that is cognitive scaffolding. It's like, this is just all the information I've already thought of. But you just want to pull out the core insights of the conversation thing that you've had. And like, what are they? And you don't need to pull everything out, but even a couple of things will be more valuable, because when you go, I think so many of the models and frameworks that we already have in our head, we just haven't externalized them. And so when you speak like that and then you pull it out, you'll have this model about how you think about things. And then when you go to make a decision, then it will be like, actually, but based on how you think about this, and you're like, oh yeah. And then you're like, so you won't need to like rethink through the problem.
Yes.
It's like, which is super annoying. Okay, let's rethink through the whole thing.
That's interesting.
Let's just go from a starting point of here, of like where we are, and let's build on top of it. And then to get more crazy, then what you do is you're like, okay, let's take all my models. What are the models of my models? What am I not seeing? And then it will give you things that you're not seeing. And then you build on those models. And that's like AI, recursive self-improvement. It's like you're building on your own things till eventually it becomes like, it's kind of half you, half augmented. It's like half kind of, because it takes your model, it makes it better, and then you agree with it. And then it's kind of hard because like, is this me? Is this AI? I don't really know. But like, it's creating that base, because then I think if you start getting into the habit of just speaking with full stream of consciousness and then just drawing out these models as you go and just saving them in some file or some way. And then later on, when you want to build something, which is just something that houses your thoughts, just say, how would I build this? And it will just tell you. And then just say, how will I build this for my personality, for everything you know about me, so that I'll just keep using it and I'll want to use it. Because ultimately you won't do something forever if you won't do it. Like, if you won't do it forever, I wouldn't do it for a day. And so you want to build it so it's long term. And so, but if you align it with your personality, you won't need then to think. So me, when I wake up in the morning, I just walk my dog because I just like it. And I just open up GPT and I just talk. And I'm just like, I'm not doing anything that's like different. But before, I used to read all these books on like, you got to journal in the morning. And I'm like, I'm fucking writing their journaling. I'm like, this is too fucking slow. You know, but it's because I'm an extrovert and you speak 3 times as fast as you write, or probably more. And the way that I get clarity is through speaking. But you may be someone that does journal, and you might realize this voice note thing is fucking stupid. I'm going to write. And so then you just write and you take a photo of it and you add it to GPT. But you first want to know yourself, because if you know that, then everything else gets unlocked. Like everything else, and then they'll be like, I reckon some people will build some second brain off stories. Like, I think a lot of people think in stories, they don't think in frameworks. That's just the way they think. So if they're an introverted feeling type, like say my sister, right, we're very different. She thinks through writing. That's how she gets clarity. And like, she has a different thought process than I do. And so like, she would have something else that's slightly different or constructed, but ultimately you want something that's like sustainable that you can do. Hopefully that answers the question.
It does. Thank you, sir. Mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. It
was fun.
I've already got a few takeaways for myself, and the journaling one just hit me home, because I've tried the journaling thing, and I'm like, fucking hell, I write so slowly. My brain to handwriting connection, terrible. Absolute pleasure, Matt. Thank you so much.
Thanks, appreciate it.